If Bartok were alive today and in a band, do you think he'd be a metalhead? Or maybe a jazzer? Maybe this chord can answer that. Welcome to
Keith Horn's Chord of the Week.
Béla Bartók wrote his fifth string quartet in the summer of 1934, and it only took him 4 weeks to do it. To put that in perspective, it took me 4 weeks just to get through season 1 of The White Lotus. I've always been crazy about the Bartók string quartets. I love the fourth, I love the fifth. I mean, honestly, I love all 6 of them. But recently I was listening to the fifth, and this chord jumped out at me from the fourth movement. And when I hear something like this from Bartók, I can't help but think if he were alive today that he would be a fan of metal, and specifically progressive metal, which is why I took this chord and did this with it. I love the image of a small Hungarian man in a wool suit at a Meshuggah concert just tearing it up in the mosh pit. And knowing Bartók, he would probably even have his classic Edison phonograph there to bootleg the whole thing. So let's look at this chord real quick. It has 8 notes, but if we remove the doublings, it's only 5. So when I look at this chord, I can't help but notice it resembles an E7 with a flat 5 and a sharp 9. Some would say a flat 10. And I know what many of you are going to say. Don't start labeling this thing in jazz terms. Well, this is how I like to think of chords. I like to look at them and say, what does this remind me of? And this one kind of looks like an altered dominant. And it kind of sounds one. It sort of reminds me of this, basically this chord, like a rootless E7 alt, right? That kind of thing. But it's voiced differently. This is more of a traditional jazz voicing. This, the G minor upper structure over this E7 shell. And that's usually what one would go for if you're voicing that chord, something like this, a standard voicing. With this, if we think of this Bartók chord as an altered dominant, it's a new way to voice that we probably wouldn't have thought of before. At least I wouldn't have thought of before. Now, it's possible that Bartók came up with this chord symmetrically using the half-whole diminished scale, like this. With that scale that alternates half steps and whole steps, it's symmetrical, and all of those notes are in that scale. And it's very Bartókian to do something like that. He used symmetry as an organizing principle in creating a lot of his music, so it's possible that he did that. And of course, Bartók most likely was not thinking of this as an E7 sharp 9 flat 5 or an altered dominant. He doesn't use it functionally. He didn't think that way in general. He didn't think tonally and functionally. But doesn't mean we can't think that way with this chord, so let's try that. What if we did use this chord voicing as a dominant? I slapped together a basic version of Autumn Leaves in A minor, and when we get to the E7, right before the A minor, I used this exact voicing from Bartók's fifth string quartet. Check that out. And at the end there, I resolved the A minor to Schoenberg's Farben chord, because I'm a big dork. Now, one of the main reasons I love doing this kind of study, talking about individual chords that appeal to me, is so I can take them off the page, out of their original context, and use them in another context. And the visceral rhythmic nature of Bartók's music really appeals to the part of me that is a rock musician, the guitar player in me that grew up playing Metallica, playing Megadeth. You know, I love that stuff. It's in my blood. And Bartók just pushes those buttons for me. But at the same time, the sophistication of his harmony appeals to the jazzer in me. Of course, Bartók was neither a metalhead nor was he a jazzer, but I can't help but wonder, what kind of music he would have created if he was born in, say, 1975. I think he would have been a keyboardist in probably a progressive metal group, someone with a deep understanding and appreciation of rock, jazz, soul, metal, the classical canon, and of course, modern folk music, which most of those things I just mentioned are modern folk music, except for the classical canon. You know what? I think he would be Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater, now that I'm thinking about it. Or maybe Chick Corea. I feel like those two guys kind of carry the spirit of Bartók and have that same level of depth of understanding and vocabulary and the ability to express it in the music they create. And if any of you watching this have recommendations for bands, artists, other composers that are influenced by Bartok, please let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for new music.
Yeah. Who this? This beat. Yo, who this? Yo, who this? Who this?